This is a Yamaha RX-300U stereo receiver. This is all it does right now. You can see the relay clicks after a minute, which means the transformer is likely putting out voltage. Just the low voltage circuit that runs the display and all the controls is not working. I haven't tried running like line into it or anything like that to see if it's passing audio, but it's kind of a moot point anyway. If it doesn't fully turn on, what's the point? So I'm going to go through the nightmare of getting this circuit board out of here that's entwined in both the front and back covers, and there's no bottom access panel. So once I get this circuit board out, we'll take a look and see what's going on. Okay, I've got the circuit board loose and I'm having another look in here, and I see an issue already. This little transistor right here in the middle seems to look like it's been getting very warm, and there's a dark spot in the circuit board there right around the leads, and I about guarantee that there's bad solder joints under there. So I'm going to flip this over and have a look, and also test the transistor, make sure it's still good after getting that hot. That kind of thing happens on receivers a lot when they're built flimsy like this, because this heatsink has a lot of weight to it. It's not very well anchored, and vibration, you know, combined with heat causes things to shift. In fact, you can see the legs of the transistor pulling in and out already. So let's flip this circuit board over and take care of this problem. Here's a bottom view of that transistor. You can see the heat discoloration, and I can see that there's definitely broken solder joints. So I want to get my meter out and do a couple quick tests before I break out the soldering equipment. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is check continuity from each transistor lead to the next nearest point on the trace that connects to it. So we'll start with the top one. That one's good. Center one. That one's okay. And now the bottom one. And we have nothing. And when I push on it with my meter lead, I can see that lead move. So I know I got a broken solder joint there. You can see it was making contact briefly while I was pressing on it. So first, got to remove the old crusty solder. Alright. Now I'm going to shut the camera off and remove this transistor so that I can get to this copper a little better, clean it up with some denatured alcohol, inspect the damage, and start putting it back together and try to resolder it. Okay, I've now got the transistor removed and all the solder flux cleaned off, and also I've taken a razor blade and scraped some of the green solder mask off around the holes where the transistor went. That allows me to inspect the copper for cracks, and also to expose more copper to allow for bigger solder joints on each lead, and that makes them stronger. Receivers like this with the very thin copper layer on the circuit board, you need to make the solder joints a little bit heavier duty. In fact, it looks like there might be some other bad ones here, like on the output transistors, so I'll check those after I take care of this. Another thing I was really surprised to find was that when I took this transistor off of here, there was no thermal grease on it at all. So that's probably why it got so hot. It had no good connection to the heatsink all that time. And I'm going to test this with my meter and make sure it's not open or shorted. I don't have my big transistor tester here right now, so all I can do is a basic diode mode test. So I'll do that real quick. Okay, I'll just do a quick demonstration of how you test a transistor with a diode tester. This is an NPN transistor, and basically you put your meter on diode test and you put your positive meter lead on the base of the transistor. If it's an NPN, you use your positive lead on the base. If it's a PNP, you put your negative lead on the base. And you do a diode test between base and emitter and base and collector. So let's go base to collector. We're dropping about 600 millivolts. That's right in spec for a silicon transistor. Now the other set, you have about 600 millivolts also. So that tells me it's not shorted, it's actually conducting just fine. Now you can test the other way around and make sure there's no leakage in the other direction. There's nothing that way and nothing that way. Now there are some exceptions because some transistors have what's called damper diodes and also damper resistors. And sometimes you'll read a really low resistance between the base and emitter. Like for example, the horizontal output transistor in a lot of TVs and monitors, there's damper diodes and damper resistors in there, or actually not damper resistor, shunt resistor, and you can't test them as easily using a meter. So now that I know the transistor's not shorted or open, I'm going to go ahead and reinstall it using thermal grease this time and get the solder joints put back on and put everything back together and see what happens. Okay, I've got that all reinstalled. I wish I had my flux remover here, but I've only got a can of that at work. And flux won't hurt anything, it's just, it kind of makes it a messy appearance. Like on this joint here, you can see there's a lot of leftover flux, and it just makes it look dirty. And also some types of fluxes can be sticky and attract dirt, which can become slightly conductive over time, but in general flux doesn't hurt anything. Another thing to watch for when you're working on receivers that have directly board mounted jacks, like in this example here, the speaker jacks, I noticed a couple of those have broken solder joints as well, so I'm going to take care of that before I put this back in. You want to check every single jack, and also on the front, if there's potentiometers like this, make sure the solder joints aren't cracked on those. Anywhere where there's a plug or a control that's directly board mounted, a lot of times there's going to be cracked solder because of the stress of the being used over the years. Okay, the board's mounted back in, but before I finish putting it completely back together, I'm going to give it a quick test in case I got to take it back apart. Sweet.
Now, all Moen bath faucets are on sale. The Bay Hill model is a two-handle.
It lives.
With a beautiful chrome finish and lifetime warranty. Now just $69. Choose from a number of other models of Moen bath faucets. Also,
let me throw the faceplate and top cover back on this baby real quick. We have workage, and workage is a good thing.
There's an app for that.
Thanks to JeffN727 for sending this in as a repair project. I hope you guys learned at least a little bit from this video. I know I kind of rushed through it, but I really just don't have the time to stop and detail every single step. You know, there's there's just too much going on around here right now. I mean, I'm up to my knees in stuff to work on right now. But anyway, I think all I got left to do to this is clean up the covers a little bit, and it'll be all set. Not sure whether I'm going to put it on eBay or hang on to it for a work radio, or I'm not really certain what I want to do with it yet.
Those stories coming up, but first, blueberries can be as effective as a